Welcome, Commodore fans, to this special edition of Coach's Corner here on January 23rd. This is Herman Daniels sitting in for James Baxter this week with a very special guest this week. A person that many of you will recognize. I'm sitting here with Tom King. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tom is here for a very special event that we have coming up March 28th. Many of you, particularly if you're a softball fan, recognize the name Joe Tom King Field because that's the name of the field that the Lady Commodore softball team plays on. And Joe Tom King had quite a close relationship with you, I would say.
Yes, he did. He was my father.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But what you might have noticed that we have a new sign out on the softball field out there, a Joe Tom King Field.
Right.
We've unveiled it. And we're having sort of a rededication of that sign. We've also put a new sign on Frazier Field, the baseball field.
Right.
And we're going to have a rededication of that field as well. We're going to do all that on the 28th day of March. That's Tuesday, March 28th at 4 o'clock. They're going to have a baseball game's going to start against, of all teams, Chipola.
That's a good start.
Us and Chipola go back a long way, so that's that'll be a great game. Softball will be playing at 4 o'clock. Baseball will start at 5 o'clock, also against Chipola. And you and Jeannie Frazier have a very special honor. You're going to throw out the first pitch on the softball, and Jeannie Frazier, the widow of Bill Frazier, who Frazier Field is named for, is going to throw out the first pitch in baseball. So we're looking for a great occasion that day, just a great day.
I think it'll be a great day. My only concern is that I get the ball doesn't bounce up the home plate. That's the worst thing I'm worried about.
Well, the truth is, many years ago we had a basketball thing around here, and they blindfolded the basketball team, and I shot against them free throws, and they beat me. So don't feel bad about that if you bounce it up there.
Well, if anybody is as you grow older, and if you played a lot of baseball, your arm slot, which once was here, now your arm slot is here. So it makes a whole lot of difference throwing the ball. So I got to work on it pretty now and then. I got a little time. That's a good thing.
You got a couple of months here to get that arm in shape and to get it where you can throw, and we're looking forward to that. It's going to be an exciting day because the first 300 people, I need to say this, because we want the fans to come out and participate with us, and the first 300 that show up. Now, we're going to start the tailgate party at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
The softball game starts at 4, baseball starts at 5, but the tailgate party starts at 3. And the first 300 fans that show up, there'll be a table or a booth or a tent or something set up somewhere out on the area between the baseball and the softball field. First 300 people to get a ticket. They got to have a ticket. Don't be 301. Because they're going to run out. But the first 300 to get a ticket will be able to get a free hot dog or hamburger, whichever they choose, free chips and a free drink, and then hang around and help us celebrate the rededication of these fields.
I think it's a great idea. It sounds like a great occasion.
And hopefully celebrate a couple of victories in softball and baseball.
Especially that.
That's what we'd like to have. Tell us a little bit about this field. Some people may not realize that Joe Tom King Field originally was a baseball field.
Right. It's where the softball field is now. Where that field's located.
Yeah, when we built Frazier Field, and moved the baseball team down to where Frazier Field is, we converted Joe Tom King Field into a softball field, but it originally was a baseball field, named for your dad. Tell us about your dad a little bit and how that came to be that the field wound up carrying his name.
Well, my dad ran a business here in Panama City called Panama Cigar and Candy Company, down on Harrison Avenue and 14th Street. And his whole life, he'd been a big baseball. My whole family are baseball fans. And he had a series of heart attacks. And on his last one, the next to last one, he had to retire. And as he retired, it just coincided, just by chance, with the Gulf Coast starting to build their athletic program. And this weekend, I was cleaning up my office, and I found this plaque, and it was to Joe Tom King as being the president of the Gulf Coast Athletic Foundation. No, Gulf Coast Athletic Association. From 1968 until 1972. And shortly after that, he passed away, And that time they named the baseball field Joe Tom King Field. And my mother was a big fan, and even after my dad died, one of the pictures I carry in my mind of my mother is sitting out behind the backstop in her chair that she brought with her, and she always kept score on the back of an envelope in her own scoring. Everybody's got kind of a special way they do it. She would do that and with a coat on, because as you and I know,
it could get cold
there's nothing colder than a baseball field, and probably Gulf Coast is one of the top coldest ones in the world. When you get a March wind, late February, it gets very cold. That's what I carry a picture in my mind. But anyway, they named the field Joe Tom King Field, and as you said, when they built the baseball field, they named it Bill Frazier, and rightly so. I felt good about that, and my dad would have felt good about that also. But I'm glad they did keep his name on the softball field, because it's meant a lot to me. There's probably not a week goes by that somebody come out and say, "Why did they name that baseball field after you?" I said, "No, not me, my dad."
And that's exciting. We've got the Billy Harrison Field House named after
Right.
Billy Harrison, who was also very active in getting sports started
Right.
about the same time that your dad did.
Yeah.
So, we owe a lot. I'm glad that we're rededicating these fields. I'm glad that we're remembering a little bit about our history. We've got great athletic programs here now.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's good to know where you come from. Mm-hmm. And it's really, I'm glad we're remembering these, to remember some of these people and the involvement they had in helping us organize athletics at Gulf Coast State College.
Right.
Without people like your dad, we wouldn't have had athletics at Gulf Coast State College probably.
I remember one thing that they really stewed around about was, if you remember, they used to have some dormitory type buildings for the baseball players at that time, and that was getting that organized. I remember that part of it. I remember one time when the basketball team got in the national tournament, they got a Trailways or one of the bus lines. He rode out to Kansas, to Hutchinson, Kansas, to the thing out there, and went to that. He was a big fan. And talking about the baseball, I tell everybody that the biggest bang for your buck in athletics in this area is Gulf Coast baseball, because it's no bucks to get there. It's a great place to go, and people, especially if you got young kids. If you got kids who want to play baseball, there's no better way for them to learn what to do than watching somebody who knows how to play. And Gulf Coast baseball players know how to play.
We've got great coaches there. Coach Beth Wade at softball, and
Right.
Coach Mike Kemp at baseball. And nothing I love better, not on those cold days you're talking about. I stay home by the fireplace on those days. But when it warms up a little bit, I love to put on a jacket. I got a friend that loves baseball. I run by and pick him up. We'll come out here. We'll sit down there in those stands. We always bring us a handful of peanuts with us.
Oh, yeah.
We've got to have peanuts and a drink. But nothing I like better than sitting there and watch a good baseball game. It's just relaxing, and like you say, we have a great caliber, high caliber of baseball and softball played here.
Absolutely, and people should take advantage of it. I think it's the nice thing about it, if you have a son or a daughter, if she's playing baseball or softball, you can come out here for 3 innings, and you just lost a little time, and they've had a good time, and those are the times that kids remember.
Mm-hmm. If you sort of along that line, I was thinking a little bit about Joe Tom King Field,
right,
and how long that field has been there. And some of the players that have played on that field, baseball over the years. Now, there's a lot of softball players, but I want to talk about the baseball players that's played on that field over the years. Probably the most famous name that comes to mind would be Don Sutton.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Did you see Don play when he was here?
Briefly, not very much. At that time, I didn't live here, but I did. I remember one time I came down. My dad took me out to see a game to see him play.
He was not here very long. He only stayed here about a year, I think.
Right.
But
he was at Pensacola Junior College, and he transferred over here. I think that's where he did it.
He was from Pensacola. He lived up in Cantonment up there. And in fact, Larry Tyree, who used to be the president of Gulf Coast State College years ago, he and Larry Tyree were battery mates. Larry caught Don Sutton back in high school. So it was,
Larry Tyree was one of my dad's
Yeah.
very good friends.
small world when you think about it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Don's probably the most famous one, but he's not the only one. They've had a lot of, and I'm almost scared to start naming them because some of these players played on Frazier Field.
Yeah.
And not on, I'm trying to think about the ones that played on Joe Tom King Field, but Smoke Lavelle, I think,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken.
Steve Lombardozzi, did he play?
Lombardozzi played here, and I can't remember if he played on Joe Tom King or if he was on
either.
Frazier, because he was right about during that period of time. But Lombardozzi played here. Chris Hammond played here.
Yep.
You
Smoke
had-
Lavelle recruited my son at LSU when he was at LSU to go over there. Didn't go, but he recruited him.
Yeah.
Go over there.
And I think of some local players. I got a friend I play golf with every now and then, Dane Messick. You know Dane?
Oh yeah, I do.
Dane was a local player that played here at Gulf Coast, and then went on to, I think he played for the Astros, if I remember correctly. But he's
Yeah.
back here in Panama City now.
Yeah,
He's
I
back.
saw him the other day.
Yeah. So I mean, it's neat to think about the caliber of play that we've had out of all these players over these years, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so many that's gone on to make it in the majors.
That's true, but this is a great place to play, and you got to think about it. And you don't have a lot of the distractions that you have, and but it's a great place to play. And you've had great coaching here. You think about that. And another thing I think is important is the longevity of those coaches. I don't know how many years Frazier was here, but it was a long time.
Yes, he was probably, it was something over 20 years.
And
I think
Candler's been
Frazier
here
was
8 years
Candler's
already.
been here 8 years.
So you got longevity.
And Maz was here
Yeah.
12 or 15 years in between there, or
Yep.
something like that. So you're right. You're right. They have,
That's been a good thing.
and that's important.
I know it. It's very important, especially when the kids make up his mind where he wants to go.
And I like to tease Mike Kendler that if you can't recruit a player from Pennsylvania to come here and live on the beach and play ball to where the average weather year-round is the kind of weather we have, instead of the snow they're having up there.
That's right.
You can't be much of a coach if you can't recruit to bring them down here. They do a great job of bringing them down here.
Well, you are, and you're seeing more and more players from the north come into this area and come down here and play baseball. And I think another thing is pro scouts, especially in his pitchers. Pro scouts like a guy from the north, because he hadn't thrown 8 zillion pitches since he was 5 years old, like kids in the South sometimes do, all through Little League and boom, 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 all the way up through high school. But a guy in the north, he hasn't thrown nearly as many pitches.
He hasn't. But that's not to disparage the local players.
Absolutely not.
Baseball has come a long way here locally, because there's a lot of really good baseball played in the high schools here in Bay County.
Well, you look at Mosley High School; their track record. Bozeman last year had a great year. Arnold is doing very well. So all of them, Bay High, all of them are doing very well. When I went to high school here, there was only Bay High and Rosamond. Those are the only two places you played high school baseball. And at that time, I think you could safely say that Bay County was what you might call a football town, a football county. But I think a lot of that has changed. You're seeing a lot of good baseball played at high school level here, and Candler gets his share of those guys too.
He does a great job. You mentioned your dad liked to go out and watch baseball games. Do you get out and watch a lot of them?
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about when you were talking about taking your friend when you go out and watch a game. Last year, one afternoon, Saturday afternoon, I wasn't doing anything because I just dropped in. They were playing up there, and a good friend of mine, Andy DeRamo, was there. And he and I sat there for about 5 minutes and just talked and had a good time, because Andy's a big sports fan. And he and I talked about basketball and everything else while we were there. And that's just a great time.
It's a great time. I recommend anybody, if you got high blood pressure, give that a try.
That's right.
I think it'll work.
I agree with you.
Listen, we're about out of time here, but I want to thank you for being with us today, Tom, and appreciate the contribution your father made to athletics here at Gulf Coast State College. And I want to remind the fans, March 28th, have a tailgate party that starts here at 3 o'clock. First 300 people that show up to the tent or the booth or whatever we wind up setting up between the baseball, softball fields, and get a ticket. Don't be 301. Be the first 300. Get your ticket. You get a free hamburger, hot dog, whichever one of those you want, chips or a drink. They'll also have concessions. If you are number 301, don't worry. They've got concession stands. You'll have to pay for that, but that'll be available as well.
Right.
Then at 4 o'clock, you're going to throw out the first pitch to start the softball game on Joe Tom King Field.
Yes,
and at
I am.
5 o'clock, Jeannie Frazier's going to throw out the first pitch to start the baseball game over on Frazier Field. And it's just going to be a great afternoon. Looking forward to that. March 28, starting at 3 o'clock.
I'll be there.
Hope to see you there, Tom.
I'll be there.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's a wrap.